This is Deep Down, and I'm your host, Jordan Hunt. I'm a composer, vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, and self-releasing artist. You might also know me as former violinist in the Irrepressibles, as the long-standing musical companion to Grammy-nominated Olivia Chaney, or as a musical and associate director of the Theodem's Company. I delve deep as we explore the creative process and life through the lens of a musician, unravelling universal ideas and enigmas through some of my songs and lyrics, and through some of the profound moments that have shaped me. Join me deep down as we embark on this journey together, in search of answers to the elusive question, what do you really feel deep down? In this episode, I take a deep dive into my song, appropriately titled Ocean Floor. It's almost as though my work is all connected. I'll be explaining how this enigmatic song of two halves really defines the punctuation in my songwriting career so far. I'll be giving the emotive backstory behind the lyrics, revealing just how painstaking the lyric writing process can be, but also how cathartic and therapeutic it can be. Welcome deep down. I'm so glad you're joining me here at the Ocean Floor for an extra special deep dive into my song, Ocean Floor, which is one of my dearest songs, as it marks a turning point for me in my adult life. I'm going to be discussing the story, backstory, lyrics, production, recording, the music video, and so on, in an exhaustive yet concise detail. What was the turning point in my life, I hear you ask? Well, to set the scene, it's April 2018. I'd literally just come out of 6 months of therapy on the NHS, cognitive behavioural therapy to be precise, and boy did I need it. I was a month away from going on a month-long 22-state tour of the USA with my long-term musical companion Olivia Chaney, and in a sudden miraculous moment, I'd met the man of my dreams. And when I say met, I mean like real-life encounter at a train station, and then again on a train, and then again at our destination by the sea a few times that day. It wasn't on the dating apps, which were not a healthy place for me back then, hence the therapy. And I'd been single for a good year or so at this point, which for a serial monogamist like me was a big deal. This is probably too much information, but it was a time of enormous change for me. It felt like the universe had spoken, and so it was as though I was primed to write a new song to commemorate the occasion. If I was ever going to seal a moment in wax forever, now was the time. That song was Ocean Floor, which I'm happy to say seems to be one of my most popular songs according to the streaming analytics. But who cares about streaming analytics when you can own a copy of the song on CD? Hint, hint. If you'd like one, head over to my website, jordan-hunt.com, which really is the best way you can support me if you're enjoying this content and any of the other stuff I produce. I'd be eternally grateful. But back to the story, or backstory. It's a lovely story. Where to start? Let's start with how the title came about. It's almost as though all my work is connected. You may know that the full title of the EP is To the Ocean Floor, and Ocean Floor is the final track of that EP, which was released as a single. I also have another song called The Sea, which you may be familiar with, and which I did a deep dive episode of a couple of weeks back. Go and check that out if you haven't already. And of course, this podcast is called Deep Down, which, well, the image that springs to mind is the bottom of the sea, for me. As I mentioned before, I have an affinity and fear of water, and love the sense of place and being by the water. I've spent a lot of my formative early musical career years as a composer in Aldborough, the famous seaside village in Suffolk that was home to the great composer Benjamin Britten and his partner, the tenor Peter Pears. It is now home to the Britten Pears School inland at Snape. For those of you who believe, I'm a Cancerian, which is a water sign, and I have a huge affinity for my fellow Cancerians and Pisceans and Scorpios. I feel we can communicate on a deep, watery layer that most people of other signs might not really understand. Besides my relationship with the water, though, the title was actually named by my partner, Christopher Thomas, a choreographer, who a couple of years back was commissioned to create a work for the main stage at Sadler's Wells Theatre in London, an incredible international hub for dance in the UK. He was a young associate choreographer there for 2 years, and I got to make the music for his piece there, which he'd titled To the Ocean Floor. It's rather different in vibe to my own lyrics for Ocean Floor, the song, but I think it can all be open to interpretation in that wonderful way that allows you to create your own interior story, despite the intentions of its creator. So we have the title, though which came first, the title or the song? I think the title, in this case actually, which was a gift given to me to respond to, which I did in a very personal way. So I said it's April 2018. I stood on the concourse at London St Pancras station with my friend Olivia, who I originally met as the oboist in the Irrepressibles a very long time ago. We were both waiting for our friend Charlie, who was viola player in the Irrepressibles a long time ago. She was ordering her coffee before we boarded our train to take a day trip to visit our friend Nicole, who was the cellist in the Irrepressibles a very long time ago. We were catching up as you do, and as I looked over Olivia's shoulder to Charlie, who was in the queue at the coffee shop not too far away, I spotted the chap in front of her in the queue, who was terribly handsome and was looking in my way. It was very sweet, because we exchanged a glance for perhaps longer than is usual with strangers, and so I smiled to myself, or to him, I'm not sure, but I think he then realised he was staring at me and blushed a little. I'm not sure my friend Olivia was even aware of this momentary distraction at the time, as I was trying to focus on what she was saying, what she was talking about. But I immediately wanted to catch this chap's eye once again to see whether he'd look back. It makes me a little sheepish to talk about it, really, because it was so sweet and vulnerable. I think I was thinking to myself, how do I go up and speak to him? Olivia seemed quite keen to get on the train. It was less than 10 minutes left, so once Charlie had returned with her coffee fix, we moseyed over to the right platform, and I lamented to myself the fact that I hadn't had time or courage to go and say hi to the handsome stranger. And I walked away thinking to myself very distinctly, next time. I was so close to going up and saying hi, which I must add that I'd never done before. But I figured I had an open invitation from him to at least say hi, as he'd been looking back at me, so I shan't reveal the whole story now, as it will make sense with the lyrics in a moment, but needless to say, that moment is documented as a picture in the first half of the song. And I say document as that's sort of what this song feels like. It's what many of my songs are, really, an emotional document or a moment of a feeling that I don't want to lose. And not only am I documenting this moment in time in song, and in this episode, it's also important to acknowledge the incredible impact that my partner has made to my life since we met roughly 6 years ago. In fact, this is sort of our 6th anniversary episode. If you've listened to my deep dive episodes about my songs Don't Fly Too Far and Peter, you'll hear that I've certainly written other songs about exes of mine, but never a current partner, so I felt it was super important to document this too. The song is very representative of this transitional moment of before and after, or old Jords and new Jords, as my brother friend Alex says. It's a song of two halves, and I've mentioned that this seems to be a recurring theme in songs of mine. This sort of leans into my contrary nature. Up the top of my head, my songs Mother, The Sea, Don't Fly Too Far, I Once Cared, all use this binary structure as an approach. I love this journey in a narrative of a song before and after. It can capture a sense of transformation that's so important and inherent to all of our lives, this constant feeling of change. In this song, Ocean Floor, the device I use is with the lyrics next time, like I said before, where in the first half of the song I'm talking to myself and reassuring myself that if I ever had the opportunity like this again, next time I'd do better. And then the second half of the song, without giving away the punchline, is when this next time actually comes around, my second chance, so to speak. It's a bit like the coastline, perhaps another reason for my affinity for the water. When you get to the water's edge at the end of the beach, and then suddenly you start walking into the sea, and you're changed and transformed irreversibly. Your state literally is no longer the same. You know, obviously you're wet, and there's no immediately getting dry again. But any thoughts or anxieties in my case that you had about going in the water are dissipated, as you're already there, you're wet, and hopefully it's all good. Also, in having this two-part structure, it's such a hopeful journey, as you can go deep and express your pain in the first half of the song. And then the hope of change or a second chance to rectify the past and make amends in the second half and take us elsewhere. One day I'll have to go into the incredible genius of that song by Nina Simone, Another Spring, which sets the scene of an old woman who's alone. It's very sombre in a minor key. In the first part, even her delivery sounds as though she's given up. It's so sad and resigned just thinking about it. And then one morning, another spring, and it's in the major key. It's just so delightful, and truly one of those songs that I can hardly listen to without welling up. Probably because I'm projecting a little of my own personal family history with my mother onto that woman in the song, but also because it's so full of joy. It's sort of like the black and white colour Technicolor version that happens on screen in The Wizard of Oz. Perhaps that's a bigger influence on me than I realise. I'm not sure I've musically or harmonically ever alluded to that song, but the structure of two parts and the journey entailed is inherent to so much of my music. If you don't know the Nina Simone song, Another Spring, go and listen to it. It will all make sense. Okay, so let's get into the lyrics of my song, Ocean Floor. As I mentioned, this is a song of two halves, and in a sort of trad way, it's verse, chorus, verse, double chorus. Those are the two halves, I guess. Maybe not quite so abstract as I was making out. But the lyrics for the first verse are, next time I'll wake up. Next time I'll ask your name. Next time I'll go up. Next time I'll move a flame. Next time I'll be enough. Next time. Let's hear it from the opening up to there. Next time I'll wake up. Next time I'll ask your name. Next time I'll go up. Next time I'll move a flame. Next time I'll be enough. Next time. Obviously the lyric you'll take away from that first verse is next time, which sort of hits you over the head. Perhaps it's more gentle persistence, but still for me it's quite bold to be so repetitive. Like I mentioned earlier, that was the phrase I distinctly remember saying to myself as I floated up the escalator from the concourse to the platform at St Pancras station. And it stuck with me because, as I mentioned, I was fresh out of CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, like literally a week or two before this moment, and my huge takeaway that I'll go into another time is flexibility and self-compassion, and this soothing phrase, next time, was all about forgiveness and kindness to myself. I did my best, and next time I could try again. Whereas in the past I might have beat myself up for not having gone up to this person when I had the chance. Instead, I recognised just how close I was to getting myself together to approach him, and said in a gentle way to myself, next time you'll be a step closer to the courage needed to going up to this person to say hi. I really wouldn't be here, and this song literally wouldn't exist without therapy, and at that time it felt totally directly connected. So even as I was writing this song, over a year after that moment where we locked eyes, the phrase in my head stuck with me. So as I insist that next time I'll wake up, in other words, I'll get it together, I'll ask your name, I'll be brave, I'll go up, I'll pause my conversation with Olivia or whichever person I feel indebted to give my full attention to without pause, and next time I'll move a flame. In other words, I'll embrace the embarrassment and blushing it might cause, and I'd do it anyway. Next time I'll be enough. And that was the major keystone in CBT formulation that I was exploring for 6 months in therapy, really feeling that I am enough, which sounds easy enough to most people, but I'm sure if you get me, you get me, that when you're not feeling it, it can be almost impossible to convince yourself that you are enough. That takes us to the first chorus, which to me sort of feels like a pre-chorus, and by that I mean it has a sense of building up to something, but effectively there is no other chorus to speak of, so let's call this next part, the end of part one, the chorus. Let's hear it. I crack a smile through the glass, I wrestle my behavioural memory, to fix my cracks I fix my gaze, and pull you to the ocean floor, while you away So hopefully you can discern the lyrics from my diction, but here they are, sung to this little rising melodic hook that I'm very proud of. It's totally over complex, very difficult to sing, bridges the break in my voice. It's very me, a little overthought, but hopefully instinctive enough to still be catchy. I crack a smile through the glaze. I wrestle my behavioural memory. To fix my cracks, I fix my gaze and pull you to the ocean floor. This is the moment I first shared a glance with Chris. I've mentioned this term glaze to more than one therapist prior to the most recent CBT therapist I'd seen. They always asked what I meant when I used it, which I guess is the therapist's trick of trying to get you to work things out for yourself. I guess I mean this sort of glass or perspex glaze between myself and the outside world, perhaps a sense of disconnection that keeps me safe and the world outside, but also stops me from really feeling. And so I love this play on words of cracking the glaze, letting the emotions in and out, and also cracking a smile, which has a similar connotation of letting your guard drop by allowing yourself to be vulnerable. I wrestle my behavioural memory. In this moment, with my mind racing at 1,000,000 miles per second, I'm trying to remember who I was and who I am now, and allowing myself to linger a little longer than I normally would, as I wrestle my instinct to smile, but also to be cool and not give too much away, which might have been my default protection reaction in the past. To fix my cracks, I fix my gaze. I love all the uses of the word fix here. When you're making lyrics to fit a syllable structure, like if the melody already exists, there's quite a fixed set of limitations. And so I try to have fun with that and be as economical as possible by using the same words in multiple ways. So in other words, to mend my cracks from therapy, I settle my gaze upon the guy at the coffee shop who's looking at me too, and pull you to the ocean floor. Now this is where we get to the meaning of the title of the song, as I understand it. I mentioned that the title of the piece was given to me by Chris, who had named his contemporary dance piece To the Ocean Floor. And when I thought to myself, how can I make this title my own? I thought of that sensation of looking at someone where time stands still, there are no words, and it brings to mind this image of being at the ocean floor where there's just so much pressure you can't hear a thing, and there's stillness in the calm depths away from turbulence, and there's just enough light to see someone's eyes across the way from you, and the whole world only exists in relation to your moment together. And so when I pull you to the ocean floor, as the lyric goes, it's this image of me insisting that he return my gaze. And that's true connection without the need for words. I mentioned a few weeks back in my episode, my place of magic. I'm not sure that's a real place, but rather a feeling and an instinct. And I definitely feel that one of my places of magic is this unspoken connection I have with some people, where a shared glance is all you need. No words, no actions, just that vibe at the calm at the bottom of the ocean floor. So we continue on to the second half of the first chorus. While you await your daily fix, I sang that practice makes perfection. Paralysed, I stand transfixed, sinking to the ocean floor with you. And I'm stood there waiting for my friend Charlie and for Chris to finish getting his coffee, or his daily fix, as my friend Anne calls it. A third use of the word fix, which to me is utterly delightful and probably quite silly to anyone else, but also why it's wonderful. Just using the word fix 3 times in 3 different ways. I sang that practice makes perfection. Here I'm nodding back to my song Peter, where I sing that line in the chorus of that song about how relationships take practice, and hoping to myself that perhaps this person I see at the coffee shop might be a future relationship that I can practice with. Paralysed, I stand transfixed. Now I know I mentioned this almost secret power of connection and eye contact pulling someone to the ocean floor, but realistically I was so nervous that I could hardly move even if I had wanted to. I was sort of dumbfounded, and that his eyes are so beautiful that I'm transfixed by them, looking directly into my soul, sinking to the ocean floor with you. I'm not the only one doing the pulling to the ocean floor here. We're sinking together slowly as time stands still. What first half of a song, eh? It's a whole symphony, really. And I'm always amazed how much narrative I managed to pack into so relatively few lines. We have a little musical interlude, with this gorgeous little harp riff that I could hear in my head during the recording that we conjured to life from somewhere on someone's hard drive, with this underwater sensation of watery echo. After 3 bars, we move on to the next verse, which I like that it's uneven because being 4 square can be a bit predictable sometimes. Let's have a listen. Next time I wake up, next time you're on my train, next time I get up, next time I ask your name, next time I'm enough, next time I wake up, next time you're on my train, next time I go up, next time I ask your name, next time I am enough, next time. So, as I might have mentioned in my deep dive of my song The Sea, I love to reuse the lyric structure of a previous verse and just alter the context or the meaning. So instead of in the first verse, next time I'll wake up, it's simply next time I wake up, a simple shift to the present tense from the future. And this next time is no longer in the future, but the next time is now. And I continue in that vein, filling in the rest of the story. So here is the miracle that followed after I left this handsome stranger at the coffee shop on the concourse of St Pancras and ascended the escalator to the train platform where I sleepily and dreamily boarded my train, lost in thought, behind my friends Charlie and Olivia as we were heading to visit our friend Nicole in Deal on the Kent coast. I let them take a pair of seats and I sat on a window seat in a pair of seats adjacent to them and laid my head against the window. As I haven't mentioned, for whatever reason I'd only had 3 hours sleep the night before, which is these days very unlike me, and I was utterly exhausted, which probably added to the dreaminess, lost in thought. I closed my eyes, had a mini nap for a minute. It felt like I'd fallen asleep momentarily, but the train hadn't quite set off, so it can't have been more than a minute or 2. Upon opening my eyes, who do I see walking past my seat down the carriage but the handsome stranger I'd just been making eyes with at the station? Just amazing serendipity, and I suddenly thought to myself, this is next time. It actually happened. I basically spent the next 10 minutes thinking to myself, how do I go up to this person? What if I can't find him? What if I embarrass myself? Etc. But luckily I was so tired that my overall feeling was, oh well, if it happens, it happens. And so here we are at the second verse. Next time I wake up, next time you're on my train, next time I get up, next time I ask your name. And that's precisely what I did. I'm not sure whether I even made my excuses to my friends who were busy in conversation, letting me nap. But either way, I needed to use the bathroom, so I got up and slowly scanned the aisle and seats for this handsome stranger who was sitting alone on a chair. So I paused and said hello. I think I might have asked his name and then quickly offered my own, realising that it was a little less confrontational. Either way, he was very sweet and charming, and his eyes were just stunning, and whatever drivel came out of my mouth wasn't important because we were talking, and soon enough had established that we were both going to Deal for the day, and I had arranged to have a drink with him when we both got back to London the following evening. I made my excuses and continued on my way, and I think I said hello on the way back from the loo. Too much information. Where he then introduced his friend Hannah, who had been sitting on the chair opposite him on the other side of the aisle behind me the whole time, watching my awkward advances. I was glad to be blithely unaware of her presence, as it might have made me clam up, but we laughed it off, and I continued back to my own seat, content with my little secret. My friends apparently unaware of this whole interaction. So the final lyric of the verse, next time I am enough, next time, it really felt like the perfect punctuation to my recent bout of therapy, and confirmed to me that action is so much more powerful than overthinking, and that me in my sleep-deprived, baggy-eyed, awkward, mumbling, out-of-comfort-zone state is enough. What a gift to know that. The second chorus, which follows, is basically an aria upon that moment. An aria is just a song in an opera where the character pauses for a moment to muse over an idea or a lover or whatever predicament they're facing, rather than the recitative, which normally propels the narrative forward. So my chorus aria goes like this. So love arrives unannounced. I can't help thinking it's predestined. I take the plunge and take my chance to land upon another shore. I didn't know how good it feels to be so instantly connected. I can't believe I took the risk to dive down to the ocean floor with you. Helicopter in the background. As I'm sure you can now work out for yourself, it neatly ties up my feelings in that moment. Love Arrives Unannounced, which is actually also the title of the 8th track of my EP, To the Ocean Floor. I felt it was too good not to be used again. There was some feeling of destiny surrounding our meeting for the second time, because whoever gets a second chance? And so, compelled by this energy, I took the plunge to extend the metaphor to take my chance to land upon another shore, which is not only also another track from the same EP, the opening track in fact, but another line taken from my song Peter, where I sing in the chorus, and when my heart fails to stop that blood I've lost before, then my heart will sail to land upon another shore. This idea that by letting go of Peter, I was able to move on and eventually find someone else across the sea and land upon another shore. I think this compulsion to reference my own songs like this was partly to acknowledge that until this point, I had, in quite a public way, by releasing the song Peter, made it known how enormous he had been in my life, especially after his death. So this was a way of acknowledging him and also acknowledging my own developing feelings in regards to him, using my own words about the end of our relationship from before his passing. For me it works, and I suppose that's all that matters. I have to admit that never having gone up to someone before to ask them out, I honestly didn't know how good it felt to be so instantly connected, especially upon hearing that Chris was a dancer choreographer at the time, and that I was a composer, a match made in heaven, theoretically. It really felt like a risk to me, which was a very new sensation post-therapy, with no certainty of avoiding rejection, but I was embracing my newfound flexibility and self-compassion, and was open to chance and the chaos of the world. I think I was actually quite shocked at my boldness, almost witnessing myself in action, allowing myself to feel. And so I'm trying to get across this sense of epiphany, as much to myself as to the listener. And as I can't quite believe myself, I repeat the chorus. It's worth noting that the first time we hear this second chorus, it's intimate to myself, as though I'm in disbelief. And then the repetition is more external facing, telling the world. Let's hear the second double chorus until the end. So love arrives unannounced. I can't help thinking it's predestined. I'll take the plunge and take my chance to land upon another shore. I didn't know how good it feels to be so instantly connected. I can't believe I took the risk to dive down to the ocean floor. So love arrives unannounced. I can't help thinking it's predestined. I'll take the plunge and take my chance to land upon another shore. I didn't know how good it feels to be so instantly connected. I can't believe I took the risk to dive down to the ocean floor with you. There we have Ocean Floor, the final track from my EP To the Ocean Floor, released back in summer 2020, documenting when I met my partner Chris back in 2018. I wrote the song back in 2019 as part of the Sadler's Wells Commission, which definitely helped me focus, but the seed of the song had been planted in that first meeting. I knew quite quickly that Chris was a keeper. Not that anybody ever owns anybody else, but you know what I mean. Of course, you'll remember that 2020, the year of lockdown around the world, meant that releasing music was a very different landscape that spring and summer. And so Chris and I created a little music video for the song, documenting our time and relationship at home together during that time. I'm so proud of it. I think it really is very beautiful and subtle and uses our living space and mirrors in such a wonderful way. A lot of that is Chris's editing and just directorial magic, and then I stick in my own director's eye to keep things on track a little, but it's wonderful to have that document of that spring. I remember the day that song was released, I just burst into tears at the dining table. It was so cathartic. I was so exhausted making it happen against the odds, where there was so much pressure to keep the roof above our heads with all our work as artists and teachers suddenly drying up, to keep making and releasing work in that stressful time. It was so necessary, though, for our sanity. There are obviously some themes repeated throughout my work and even lyrics repeated from other songs. So in a way it's very self-referential, but hopefully not too much of a vacuum. One day I'll go into the therapeutic process a little deeper. I keep saying that. But suffice to say that this song and the story behind it wouldn't have happened without therapy. I can't sing its praises highly enough. I think I realised writing this song that my place of magic, as I had extemporised in a previous episode, in that moment was silence, pulling Chris deep down to meet me on that unspoken level, swimming in my natural emotional depth without having to explain it to anyone. Sort of the opposite of my compulsion to make this podcast with its endless explanation. But of course I'm very contrary by nature, and we live in a constant pull of opposites. I hope you managed to find some time today or this week to just be with your thoughts at the ocean floor, deep down. And if you're extra lucky, to be with that special person in your life, friend, family member, lover, whoever, to share that unspoken connection. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and review this podcast. And if you like it, share it with your friends or on social media. You can find me on all social platforms by searching at Jordan Hunt Music, and you can listen to my music on all good streaming services. Deep Down uses bits of my music nabbed from my songs Ocean Floor and Peter. Check out the show notes on jordan-hunt.com for exclusive tidbits from this podcast. I'd really love to hear from you via DM or email via my website if any of these experiences resonated with you, and if you have questions, suggestions, or requests for future episodes. Thank you so much for listening.